morning, everybody. A very warm welcome to this morning's session on crime writing. We are awaiting the arrival of the top cop of our state, a person who ensures that crime is kept at bay, and when it does happen, that it's dealt with in the best possible manner. But on the other hand, we have with us a writer, who focuses on crime and who presents it to us in the most interesting manner through the pages of fiction. It is in the context of the book Karl Koot, written by our writer S.Venkatesh, that we will therefore begin our discussions and hopefully wedge in the contributions from the DGP as he arrives.
Sure.
Right. So, Karl Koot is a crime thriller set equally in the past and the present. It's really interesting to see the way you have brought in mythology and connected it to the urban landscape, which is festering with crime. Tell us about the impulse behind this, the transposition of mythology to the present times.
Thank you, Bindu, and thank you to the organizers of the Kerala Literature Festival for putting up a wonderful event. So on the inspiration behind Karl Koot, right? So it was a combination of things. I think one certainly was that we are blessed as a country with a rich history and a rich mythology. So my book, while it is set in today's world, draws heavily from Secret from the Last Days of the Freedom Struggle. And just while reading about the freedom struggle, I realized that, the portrayal in our college textbooks, or school textbooks, is a little, how should I put it, a little dry and academic. But actually the lives of these people were far more intriguing and vibrant than we normally associate. And so that was one of the inspirations behind choosing part of the freedom struggle as a backdrop. The other, and the name Karl Koot, I don't know how many of you are familiar with what Karl Koot actually means. Do any of you know what Karl Koot actually means? So there is this episode called the Samudra Manthan in the Puranas, where the Devas and Asuras supposedly churned the primeval cosmic ocean in an effort to extract the nectar of immortality. What actually came out first was this dreaded poison called halahal. Halahal is also known as Karl Koot. So Karl Koot is a metaphor for a deadly poison that can actually potentially engulf the whole universe. And in a way, you could relate it to the toxicity of our own minds. When you churn our own mind through whatever creative or meditative processes, you have a lot of toxicity that comes out. So I think our rich mythology was also an inspiration. And lastly, I think just places. I mean, we are blessed as a country with such abundant natural beauty. So a significant part of the book is actually set in the Himalayas. And one doesn't have to say too much to visualize how inspiring the Himalayas can be. So that was the inspiration behind the book.
So let's welcome the Director General of Police of Kerala State, Shri Loknath Behra, IPS, to the venue. So very warm welcome to you, sir. We hope you had a comfortable journey. Well, we began with the topic of crime writing, and I introduced your absent present to the audience as a person who ensures that crime is held at bay and that when it does happen, it is dealt with in the best possible manner. I thought the best interesting point for this session, which involves a person from the Perilous department and a person from the field of fiction, crime writing in particular, to begin with the topic of truth being stranger than fiction. Have you, sir, encountered that with regard to crime? Is truth, the truth that you represent as an officer fighting crime, is that crime often stranger than crime as it is represented in fiction?
So every one of us here, whoever is here, it will be not a very correct statement to say that I have not read a crime story or something. Whether you have read it in the Mathrubhumi newspaper or in the English newspaper, every one of us has read a crime story. Maybe some people might have read crime novels. For me, I mean, before coming to the police, say I grew up with Feluda's stories. You might be knowing that this has been all translated in Malayalam also. The Feluda, the created by Satyajit Ray. I mean, in the line of, we can say that it was like Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson kind of situation. And he Indianized that. And one of the very good films, the Sonar Kella, I mean, it is a golden fortress. I mean, it has been also dubbed to various languages also. And that gives a very kind of actually excitement. And what is going to happen the next, that actually keeps you very glued to that novel. So many times, as ma'am asked me, that sometimes the story, I mean the real crimes which are being investigated and then charge sheeted and the accused is actually sent to jail or something, those things are little, sometimes little drab. I mean, a writer like Mr. Venkatesh, he can actually understand the mind of a reader, so he will pace it accordingly, so that that particular kind of thing is there. See, we normally do, I'll admit one thing. Many of my investigations, which I did in various parts of this country, not only in Kerala, because I spent quite a number of years in central investigation agencies like the Central Bureau of Investigation, National Investigation Agency. So I spent almost 16 years in only investigations. So I know many of my my cases have been made into stories. Some of them have been made into films. But the question is, when I see the story written by somebody, a good crime writer, and I feel that it is so interesting. The case was not that interesting when I was investigating. Sometimes you will feel very frustrated that we are not able to get a particular line to do it. See, I'll give one very thing. The Fox television from the US, actually they have made a series of the crime cases of the world, of India, and they made post-independence 10 best cases they have taken. And one of my cases was, so they came all the way from the US to interview me. And so I gave the case I did it in Lucknow. It is a case of that Madhumita Shukla case, which has been made into 11 films and various languages. So that is very good because it has glamour, it has romance, it has a lot of actually intrigue, a lot of conspiracy, everything together. So this kind of thing, when it is transformed into by a writer, so it looks better. So sometimes the fiction is better than the what you really actually think about. Crime, what if I can say for 2 minutes? All right. See, we cannot actually, I do not think we have very creative writings in India, but we have not gone to that particular level as like some of the people in the West. Say, Agatha Christie wrote 85 novels. And each novel is now, I don't know how many times people might have read. I mean, Modern Orient Express, I have read so many times. Or or you can say the Maple Storage. Maple Storage is actually a craze with people when we are studying in Delhi and other things. I'm sure about the children here. Maple, the old lady solving very mysterious cases. So similar kind of things have not come so far to my knowledge in India. So what happens is that it is the creativity and it's the power of observation. A particular thing, yesterday there was a press conference here by the crime branch. There was a very interesting case. It says that a particular person actually kills the mother by taking the help of a friend, and with a amount to be given. Now then what happens, and they put her in such a way that it looks like a suicide. Then after some time, when the guy goes and tells that you give me my money, then he kills him, and then severs the body and put the things in different parts. Now an investigation was done with the DNA and all kind of modern things been put, and we actually zeroed in the accused, and the accused has been arrested. Now, if you prima facie you see, it will not be a very actually interesting way of what I say, but when he says it will be very interesting. That is how actually the crime writing is that. So crime writing can be taken because whoever wants to even make money, crime writing is a good subject. I mean, you can. Your book will go. Then we have Ashwini Sanghi, and I really enjoy that book. If you have not read, called Krishna Key, I read it in one go, in one flight from Trivandrum to Delhi. I finished the book. It was so actually pacey. The pace is good, and the Krishna is a serial killer, and he kills, and that is that is how the thing has been written that way. So what I say is that young writers who has a passion to observe, and crime is always negative. The negative thing, if it's observed and put it in that particular format, and the format should be such that it raises your inquisitiveness, what is going to happen next. So if you can do that, you are going to be a millionaire. I'm sure about that. So and in Kerala especially, and people actually, when I ask many of the students or the housewives, they say that they love reading these crime stories and novels and kind of things. But mostly they actually concentrate on the things which have happened elsewhere. So what I said, in Kerala also there are very interesting cases which have been made into movies, like Mr. Mammootty acted in that Orusa CBI diary group, and these are all actually things which has happened in the past, and it's been made into movies, etc. And now somebody has actually, we have a serial killing here by one in Kudathai, very near to this place. Now some people are trying to write a book and make a film and something. So the creativeness is always there in a Malayali's actually mind. He or she is a very creative person. Only thing is that how it has to be transferred into good writing is the question. So, and as police officers, some of the police officers have tried to become some crime writers, but I don't know how far they have become successful in Kerala, but some people have definitely written some good stories and good novels. Some of them have been translated, so I could read that. But it is more to go, more to actually do. The last thing what I actually wanted to tell you is this. See, traditionally the crime writing is relating to mostly to the crime of passion. That is the maximum number of stories, and then they have these homicides. Who done it? Who has done this murder? That is how. Mr. Raman's latest novel is very beautifully written. So what happens is that is where you are going to say that if I tear the last page of the book, I don't know who has done it. That is the actually beauty of the writer, who says that in the last page only the mystery is actually discovered. So what happens, these kind of things, you can check anything on homicide or kidnapping, or actually kidnapping for ransom. All these things have been way back, it is being written. Starting from Satyajit Ray to Gomukesh Mukherjee, and all these people have written. But now the new generation, now this boy and this girl, they will be more interested to actually read a particular crime thriller which is happening in cyberspace. How a particular person actually is doing the things. I actually give you a very interesting case which will really interest all these children here. sometime back when I was working in the CBI, and somebody asked me to investigate a particular case in Bombay. One particular, of course, the Bombay police was investigating the case. I was actually asked to just help there because I have some knowledge about cyber and all kind of things. A particular boy who is 13-year-old, he was missing, and his father is a rich guy, industrialist, and actually the boy was missing and there was no ransom call. So they got actually very worried. Said, what happened to the boy? The boy has been killed or something has happened. So they were trying to do what is actually how. A traditional investigation, of course, they were sending the photographs and all those things to all police stations, all the highway patrols and all these and all the other states. But nothing happened. After 6 or 7 days, when I went to Bombay, then I had a discussion with the investigating officer. Then I asked that whether the boy knows how to actually use internet. He said, yes, he knows. Then I said, where he uses the internet? Does he do it in the house or actually go somewhere? He said that his father will not allow him to touch his computer. So the boy is actually so fascinated about computer, he will go to a very nearby cyber cafe and try to surf the net and do something. You know, to cut the story short, actually what happens, he befriended a particular person, actually a lady in the cyberspace first and then physically. And what happened? It was again a passion. There was age gap is too much, but anyway, the lady was actually too fascinated. Took this boy by sending a message that you come here, we will go. And then they went to Lonavala. They were staying in Lonavala. So this particular thing, we could get it from the cyberspace by analyzing the computer which is there in that particular thing, because we could go to the IP address, we could go to the mail address and the creation of the mail and found out the identity of the girl, and we traced her. So this kind of stories can be also written as a beautiful way. So this kind of things the children these days want. So similarly, homicide, all these kind of things are traditional, that always and will always excite people. But these particular cyber related cases are becoming very, very, very interesting these days. And I read some of the novels actually written by some of young children and in India, and I was very fascinated, but they could actually write that way. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. We'll come back to the topic of cyber crimes and the writing on it, but I think we now have the ball in your court, and we now probably will have to look forward to your shedding light on this aspect, truth being stranger than fiction. I think that's exactly what the DGP's talk did convey to us.
Sure. So I found a few things very fascinating in what you mentioned. So interestingly, with the proliferation of the internet, I think criminals are obviously using that to compromise people's identities, to hack into computers. But it's also interesting to see that law enforcement officials are also in a way trying to be one step ahead of the criminals in trying to use technology to actually better identify and trace the perpetrators of the crime. And reality is indeed stranger than fiction. I think it was just about a year and a half ago that the North Korean hackers had used this ransomware called WannaCry. Some of you may have heard about it, and infiltrated the computers of the British National Health Service. And a number of hospitals were just paralyzed because of that. It was actually a 22-year-old who I think had registered one of the domains in the ransomware, and he found that was activating that domain was activating the kill switch, which would switch off that ransomware. So I guess in a way what that means is that more unconventional means of tracing the crimes and the criminals are also taking hold. Another thing I found fascinating about what you said is that in the West, I think one of the big strengths that the Agatha Christie and Sherlock Holmes had is being able to sort of take you through the thought process of the protagonist. And in some ways, I think Alfred Hitchcock epitomized that on the big screen, because you're just wondering what will happen next, because the camera follows the gaze of the person. So that's what introduced this element of thrill and led to the word thriller, I guess. I think a lot of Indian fiction is now not looking at black and white portrayals of protagonists. We are able to look more at grey, darker aspects, and you're seeing that. I think Kerala's own Anita Nayar's novels have actually explored, their noir fiction. Both the protagonist and the villains both tread on the grey area, and there's a lot of moral ambiguity. So that is another trend. I think the characters will become more real when that happens. And it was also interesting to hear that the case that you investigated has been adapted into so many movies. So I've seen, one of my classmates, Amit Lodha, wrote a book called Bihar Diaries, which talks about his own experience. And you've had journalists like Hussain Zaidi now writing a number of books, Black Friday, and so on, based on their real life experiences. I think one big thing that writers have to do is, obviously the real job involves a lot of hard work, a lot of sweat, a lot of, how should I put it, a lot of intelligence and integrity to be able to find it. What the writers end up having to do is to filter this in a way that is palatable to the audience. And today, I think we are all big time starved for attention span. We are, literally by the minute checking WhatsApp and Facebook and so on. So the attention of the reader cannot be lost even for a minute. The earlier dictum used to be that end each chapter with suspense. Now you have to end each page with suspense, otherwise the reader will not turn the page. So that's an interesting development as well.
Yeah. We know that crime is universal. It really does not have a language. It's a universal one. But as the DGP of Kerala, sir, we would definitely like to know whether there is something specific, particular about the crime pattern in Kerala vis-a-vis patterns that you have seen in other parts of India that you have worked in.
See, Kerala's, I see a very interesting pattern for the last few years, is that our economic offences are increasing leaps and bounds. Mostly these offences which are tuned to the tune of a very large amount of money and originating in especially in the Gulf countries. And what happens is that, say, this is a trend now. Two of the persons, say from Calicut, decide to do a business in Dubai, and they do it for that, and they earn a lot of money. So what happens? The one person cheats the other and takes the money and comes to India. And this guy actually goes to the Dubai police and try to actually register the case. The investigation, when it comes for investigation, getting outside the country, etc., it has a lot of difficulties. So this is actually happening very, very often these days. So this is actually a change which I am seeing over the period of time, I mean the last few years. And we have registered a large number of cases for that. The another trend which is there, we are going to give a public notice to all of us here, is that actually a person, a boy or a girl, wants to have a job. Might not be CB, might not be an engineer, or might not be a very great professional, but she wants to actually earn a decent living. And then there are people who actually lure these people to say that we will arrange a job, say in Italy or in England or something, and that poor person places the ornaments of the mother or the things, and then they go there, there is nothing there, actually and he is totally left high and dry. Ultimately they actually are rescued by the Indian mission. And this is actually happening, and the person takes the money, and when it's added, the money is not a very small amount. They will ask that the ticket and other thing cost maybe around less than lakh of rupees, but they will take 10 lakh rupees, and by the time that person goes there. Recently actually one guy was actually lured to go to Italy, and that landed up in a jail in Hungary. So we had to actually, because Italy said that you don't have any authority to come here, you are thrown out. So that poor fellow actually got into a truck, and then it went to Hungary. And Hungary, they actually intercepted and put him in jail. Now he was rescued because we intervened and all those, because poor fellow. So this is also going on actually in the crime trend. I don't know whether these are the things can be written in that particular fashion. Maybe Venkatesh can do it always, that creative thing can be done. So these particular things is not doing good to our people. Our people are Human Resource Development Index. Venkatesh is one of the highest and comparable to European countries. The Kerala is that. But our children are not that particular objects to be cheated or deceived by people like this. So it is question of relative smartness. So we wanted to tell the children, I actually spoke to them in many places, please don't get lured by these people that I'll get you a job. It's not easy for actually, now every country is on a economic slump, there is not much of jobs there. So please don't go and do this kind of thing. This is one other thing I thought. Apart from that, all the traditional crimes, they take place. And all the traditional, whether it is homicide, whether it is actually, but serious shootouts, etc. are not here. Like in Bombay or in UP or some places, gang wars and killing each other on the broad street. I did some cases in Bombay, shootout on the road. So those things are not here. And then you can say lynchings are not actually very rare. But still then, there is a concern. The beauty of the Kerala people is that they want to live in a crime-less place, so that they don't want to get bothered about. A small thing like this will bother them and disturb them. Their peaceful living is gone. We are not actually born and brought up in Bombay. Bombay actually people don't care, they ignore it. If there is a shootout, that will be between two gangs and the common man is not affected there at all. But here the common man gets affected because of the coherence or the glueness of the society here. So it is actually a matter of concern. So, but one thing I wanted to also tell you, ma'am, in the whole country, we register the maximum number of cases. I register every year 7 lakh cases. And if you put Maharashtra and Karnataka together, they are registering less than what I register. Because here, what happens, every case is registered. There is no case is not registered here. And the best thing is that out of the 7 lakh cases in a year, I dispose 92% cases. And that is how, so this is actually a very, and then when we were talking this thing matter to in the All India DG's conference, even the people also were telling, and we get a 93% conviction, which is much higher than even CBI. So this kind of things are there for crime and those people who look into the statistics, they will understand this. But still then, a crime creates a disturbance in the society, unlike in many other places. That is a good sign also. In a sense, so everybody has to do the role and the responsibility. Just think of a particular person, he goes to a police station and tells that this has happened. And the police station says that, okay, you go, I have no time, I will not look into it. This doesn't happen here. This will never happen, and this will, that is because of the greatness of the people. They are demanding and they should be demanding. That is their constitutional right and they have to actually, we have to oblige them. This is what is actually the best thing about Kerala. So the trends and this particular pre-registration of cases are actually go side by side. Economic offences, nowadays the way it is happening, I am actually thinking of actually having a very group of strong professional police officers. Many of the things we don't understand. So we have to take the help of the banks, etc. to understand this. So we are now focusing much. So we are trying to train most of the officers in the investigation of the economic crimes. So I hope in a year or two, we'll have a very solid core team of economic offense, investigators. And I hope Venkatesh will write a novel on that.
Thank you, sir. That's quite reassuring. And kudos to the Kerala Police and its chief. But you have rightly directed our attention to the sleazy world of economic crimes. And with his background in the financial sector, S.Venkatesh is a person who's rooted in that kind of writing. Could you tell us more about crime writing with regard to fictional and
actually,
financial deals?
I found two things very interesting in what you said. One is, I think the biggest issue with a lot of law enforcement is the fact that a lot of cases are not registered, and the second is the poor conviction rate. So it's very interesting to see that both of those actually, that Kerala rates so highly. On financial, so I started my career in the financial markets and continue to do some work in that field. So I think every nation goes through a phase where the institutions are being built. So the US has had a lot of financial institutions now for a long time, or close to 100 years, or maybe more. If you look at India, actually, National Stock Exchange, which is the bulk of stock market volumes, is only 25 years old. Just 20 years ago, we would be having these physical share certificates and so on. So it is so, the mechanisms for tracking, for surveillance have substantially improved. But I think as people, we are still beginning to understand what some of these institutions represent. So for instance, we are very forgiving as people, not as government, as people, about things like insider trading. The average thing is that people will say, "Isse mera kya jata hai?" But to understand that undermining an institution affects society at large, I think that is an important realization. The other is that a lot of financial crimes are now linked to technology. Just a year or two ago, North Korea again, they had hackers from North Korea, we don't know who the exact person, but apparently were very close to getting $1 billion from none other than the New York Federal Reserve. Apparently they were hacking into the account of Bank of Bangladesh or Central Bank of Bangladesh with the New York Federal Reserve. The only thing that prevented them was that they had spelled the word foundation wrong, and that's how it got detected. Otherwise they would have made off with $1 billion. With technology also comes a lot of risks. So are our banking and financial systems protected against that type of risk? If there is a breach, how will law enforcement try and figure out and rectify the breach? Is there a way to even recover the lost amount? Just as we have the internet, which we all see, there is also something called the dark web, which is another part of the internet, which is anonymous, where transactions take place in cryptocurrencies, where drug peddlers, human traffickers, even weapon sellers apparently rule the roost. It's very difficult to track and narrow down and trace people who are indulging in that. So all of this will become increasingly important. In fact, this is probably material for a good novel as well.
Yeah, in fact, more than the individual, whether it's the perpetrator of the crime or the one who tracks it down, I think it's a system which probably gets described in greater detail now, but that has become so complex and so on. But even so, I still think our books and films do give us images, of super cops and super detectives and so on. Was there any figure that inspired you, sir, to take up this profession?
If I say that actually I joined the police by accident. Actually, I never wanted to be a police officer, and I was very young, so I wrote. I actually basically wanted to be a technocrat. So I was working with the Oil and Natural Gas Commission that time. Then I got this offer, and my boss said that you must join the police because he told that his batch, his classmate at that time was Mr. Walter Devara, who is a very iconic police officer. So he said that, okay, you go and be like that. So that is how I joined. Anyway, I am actually not saying that. I used to read crime fictions. I mean, from Agatha Christie to Perry Mason to all these time, during those time. And I used to always get a very good feeling of actually reading this. And what we used to do, some of my friends, we will actually read the book and 75%, then we will say that you tell me who is the killer. So we will actually discuss, and if somebody finds the correct one, and we used to say we will actually celebrate or something like that we used to do. So that when I came to the police, the reality is a little different from what it's been written there. But then you get crimes and you try to solve these things. See, as a police officer, any police officer you task, Mr. George, the commissioner, is also here, he's a good investigator. So he will actually say one thing is that if a particular case, what we call is a blind case, that means we don't know who is the person who has committed the crime. And if we can reach him, that gives the biggest kick to a police officer. And whether he is me or Mr. George or anybody for that matter. So that is how we grow up. So in that process, what happens is that some of the people in the police especially, who have done a lot of work on crime investigation, they become automatically your role models or inspirations, etc. More than that, actually, their methodologies adopted, actually, that is a very thing. Sometimes the methodology looks very actually like what I call Muhammad Tughlaq kind of logic. You know, I was actually doing a case, I'll just tell in one minute the case, a blind murder case of a very pretty woman in Ranchi. You know, in that case, I had to order, we did a thing which I cannot think even today. I told after 6 months of the investigation, we could not find who is the killer. So what I did is that, I told in the whole Ranchi region, all the guns having this bore should be examined. And you know, it went to thousands. And we took around 4 months continuously engaging 4 CFSLs to actually analyze, and we detected the case. So sometimes somebody, my officer says, "Sir, what order you have given?" I said, I was that time a DIG in the CBI. I said, no, we have to find it out. And that actually, after 4 months, there was so much of jubilation amongst that it could detect the case. Similarly, very interesting, when I was ASP wearing 3 stars, very young, 25-year-old, and posted to Cochin. One particular case which always will remain with me. I have done so many investigations, I sometimes forget some of the things. Then, this case will remain because the complainant comes and registers a case of a unnatural death of a 13-year-old boy in a pond. And we could find out that not only this is a homicide, but also the complainant is the accused. And it was done in a very professional manner. So I will never forget, because this case was actually went on appeal up to Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court upheld the investigation. So that can be always, actually somebody has written on that, actually I saw some book, and it is written as a story. So what I said, in many of the things which are coming there, it is the question of how to present it, how you perceive this, how to present that, so that as Mr. Venkatesh says, every page becomes like a thing. It's not like a documentary, it is like a fiction. So that everybody actually feels, let me read the next page. Let me read the next page. Like your serials, soaps being shown in the TV. So they will end in such a way that you will definitely be forced to see the next day. So that is how this is being done. This is an art, this is a craft by some people, and it can always be, it is, as I said, that it's a good way, a good profession on to write crime writing, because we have a large population, but we have that many number of crime books are not there. So, but in the last few years, then I saw one of your friends has written that book, no? That elephant solving the problem. Wasim, one elephant, baby elephant is there. There's that is called Ganesh. I mean, the baby Ganesh series. The elephant solves the problems. I mean, it's a fiction. Similarly, some years back, I saw a movie called The Perfect Murder by Nasiruddin Shah, and that what is that, Inspector Gote. So similar things actually inspire you to do something, and some ideas come. That CID serial which comes in the Sony television, it actually takes from various things of the real life things which has happened in various parts of the country. So you also think some ideas can be can come to you to solve a particular case. So these are the inspirations.
That's about fiction affecting department. What about you? I mean, when you write, do you take the help of officers, to seek advice, legal advice, advice from the police?
Of course, I think research, and especially hearing it from the people who actually do it, is very, very important. So my book dealt with bioweapons, so I spoke to some people who are into researching, various forms of microbes and so on. So that's very important. I'm told that Anita Nair actually spent a lot of time in a police station while researching her series as well. Yeah, so that's quite important.
Well, I guess the audience is bursting with questions for our panelists here, the DGP and S.Venkatesh. It's time now for interaction.
This is to Becker sir, DGP. Sir, the inter-country frauds or cheating is on the rise. Both economically and other crime activities are on the rise, galloping. So, just like that, the Charles Fauparage was a French citizen and he escaped to other countries evading a crime conviction or criminal probe. He evaded to other countries, migrated. So likewise, a lot of financial fraudsters are going to other countries. And what is the way out as DGP? Then to answer this, sir, what about the attention deficit and how it is going to affect fiction writing?
Many of our actually even educated people are not aware of the legal provisions relating to the crimes committed outside India. I wanted to tell because many of the youngsters are here, you must understand this. If an Indian commits any offense, which is an offense in India, anywhere in the world, he can be prosecuted by an Indian court of law and an Indian investigating agency can investigate. For example, if a particular person commits a murder in Dubai, definitely the Dubai police has to register a case. At the same time, the Kerala police, suppose he is from say Ponkunnam, and the Ponkunnam police can also register and it will not be considered as a double jeopardy. What is double jeopardy mean? For one offense, a person cannot be punished twice. So this law is there. That means what the gentleman asked, if a fraudster commits a fraud, if in India, there is one way. If it is abroad, which is now happening quite a large numbers, we register a case here and investigate. There is something called a kind of tool called mutual legal assistance in criminal matters. So we have signed this mutual legal assistance treaty with many countries. So if I want a cooperation from that particular country, I can get it. So a investigation being conducted in UAE is possible because if I make a request, the Dubai police will do it. Whereas we don't have a mutual legal assistance treaty, say, with Pakistan. So if I request them everything, they will not do it. So this is an international convention. So those people who go actually evade, the fraudsters, they say, there is one way, the Interpol, which is headquartered in France, they have actually division called the notice division. There you might have seen in many of the Malayalam movies, they say red corner notice. Actually it is now, they have changed the name called red notice. If a particular fugitive is there, he commits a crime in Bombay and goes to say a different country, a red notice can be issued by the Interpol headquarters on the request of the say Bombay police, and that person can be detained at any place if he is a member of a Interpol. Interpol has a membership of 189 countries today. So anywhere he goes, he will be detained and they will inform, and so that you can take the process of extradition, deportation, etc. to get that particular. But all said and done, it takes time. You have tons of patience to do it. Because international investigation is totally different. Sometimes I will give you a very hilarious experience. You know, in Punjab, what happens? Many of the people actually, especially the young girls, they are some expatriate Punjabis will come and get them married. I mean, they will marry them. And after some time, they will actually, 1 or 2 months, they will just have a little fun, etc. Then they will go back. This girl will be high and dry. And sometimes they will give also, the girl side will give them some dowry to that fellow, some costly watch or this, that or something. All this money, etc. he will take away and go. He might be actually a married person. This particular problem was very so high, so we took up the matter with the Americans. So mostly Americans and Canada settled people who used to do it. Now, because the very hilarious thing is that when I went to the Washington for a discussion along with the office of some officers from the Attorney General's office. And, so then he said, first of all they asked, what is dowry? So I had to explain what is dowry. They said that dowry actually torture due to dowry. Then lastly I thought that I have to tell it is domestic violence. Then they would understand that domestic violence. There is nothing called dowry there. So you have to explain this particular thing. So similar things actually, that there are cultural difficulties there. But as far as fraudsters are concerned, you can go for actually a red notice, detain him, then actually do if you have charge sheeted the case here in India, you can actually extradite that particular person by following a procedure. For extradition, as you might have seen in some newspapers, and that it takes time. That is only the difficulty. I think I have cleared your point.
With regard to your question on attention deficit, so as I mentioned, that means that the nature of the way books are written is already changing. If you read books from 50 years ago, there would be a beginning where every character is introduced, there'll be a detailed background, and then action picks up towards the middle. Now, action has to pick up literally from the word go. So that's a big difference.
Venkatesh sir and sir, question to if you are going to write a novel in connection with Vijay Mallya or Nirav Modi, what are the methods you will use to retrieve this money and these criminals? Because we are thinking only through imagination we will get this money.
There are precedents in the world where the money being actually kept somewhere else, even beyond the source of India, have been recovered. But what happens, the legal process is also very, very complicated. Actually, you can't send actually an aeroplane and pick up the money and bring it here. You must understand the money which is there in another country, that is also a democratic or a sovereign country. They have their own laws. And you cannot actually just take away things from them, then it will be constituted as a debt from that particular source. But you just think, many a times, many of the artifacts, priceless artifacts, say in Australia, they are returning back the Nataraj thing, which has been stolen. It was not taken by actually any government or anything. It was stolen by some thief, was sold to something, and it went to an Australian museum with crores of Australian dollars they must have paid. But now with all the processes going on, now that Nataraj statue is being returned. So don't actually be imaginative. Sometimes the God will be kind. It will actually come. But the only thing is that the procedure should be right. And the diplomatic relations should be used in a proper way so that you will get back the money. And I am not very fascinated about what Mr. Modi or Mr. Mallya did about that. Actually, whatever we read, it gives pain to us. You paint a picture of yours as a great guy, and lastly, you actually do this kind of things. Common person's money is actually lost. I feel very sad as a police officer, as well as a common man. So sometimes I also feel very actually stupid saying that why our people are actually investing this kind of money with this type of people when there are government institutions where your money will never go. You will get the money when you are deathbed, because the government is government. But people actually think that you will give, like in all the blade companies in Kerala, they'll say you put 1 lakh rupees, in 5 months I'll give you 5 lakh rupees. And people believe it. And they spend all the money. So this kind of things should actually stop. We should have a self-imposed discipline and control on us. The greed has no end. Lord Buddha has said years back. So you have to actually put somewhere that it is not possible. It is impossible, sir, to get 1 lakh rupees and make it 5 crores. It is not possible. You also know, but you get swayed away by this. I think I am clear about this.
My question to DGP sir. you say that double jeopardy in latest days, Walayar cases here. That case will be double jeopardy occurring. That how will you manage that in reinvestigation, or that is system failure in first investigation? That how will you manage that system or double jeopardy?
That will be probably, that's why the matter is actually seized up by a constitutional court. The matter actually has not been decided by the Honorable High Court of Kerala. See, that I will not make any comment on Walayar case because it is now sub judice. It is not proper on my part to actually make a comment. But I will tell you the precedents. There are number of precedents which actually is there relating to in Gujarat. A particular case got actually acquitted, and it went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court actually ordered a complete retrial of the entire thing in outside the state, and it was done in Bombay. I now, you might be knowing which is the case I was talking about. Similarly, so in Indian Constitution, it is the constitutional right of the accused versus the constitutional right of the victim. So it is that particular thing only the constitutional court can decide whether it is correct or not. We have actually gone to the court on the basis of some precedents. We have not gone that as if it is going with the first time. And if at all the constitutional court actually gives this order, I do not think that it will be a double jeopardy.
My question is to Honorable DGP sir and all the invitees. Sir, we are talking about all kind of crimes, but our country is facing a more grave problem. Like in a year, if India creates a wealth of 1,000 rupees, 740 rupees has been enjoyed by less than 1% of the Indian population. And the remaining 260, around 90% goes to another 10%. So when we take the wealth generated by India in a year, around 89-90% of the people get only less than 100 rupees out of 1,000 rupees. And the life is so competitive because of this unfair, unreasonable and irrational distribution of wealth. And that is the base reason for all the crimes in India. 2 days back, Kerala police had caught a criminal who had gave quotation to a gunda to kill his own mother in Kerala. So this kind of grave crimes are happening in India because of main reason is financial crisis. People are finding it very difficult to live, and the kind of injustice the Indian populace, the populace of the Republic faces is this unreasonable distribution of wealth. The entire India is working for less than 1% of the population. That is ridiculous. That is the totality of injustice to the people. If without addressing that, how can we address the crime here? Without addressing this mother of all crimes, total injustice of distribution of wealth, how can we address the crime? Police department as such is not capable of stopping the crimes. They are, despite they are efficient, in states like Kerala, they operate once the crime happens, or they are deterring crimes because of their efficiency and hard work. I do admit that. I have respect to the police department here. But in India, sir, how we can address crimes without addressing the mother of all crimes? That is the unreasonable distribution of wealth.
Well, I will tell you one thing. Most of the crimes, as I said, are actually committed. If you take the crime figures all over the world, most of the crimes are having a financial angle. It must be actually somebody wants to make money or something like that. I mean, as you have correctly said, recently the case which was detected to 2 lakh rupees was given a quotation. All these things are, you are very right. say many of the crimes being committed in the world are due to financial reasons. Well, this will remain, this will not go. Even if you actually see, if you take the entire resources of a country and distribute them equally amongst all the people, do you think that the crime will not come? Crime will come. You know how, even if I have the same money as ma'am, then there is some factor called greed. So that particular thing, so ma'am will be probably thinking that, okay, I will buy a gold ornament and wear. So immediately I will say that, okay, she has got a gold ornament, I will also buy a better one then. So I have to do something like that. See, that particular human mind actually incites the crime. You know, this is what? About equitable distribution of wealth all over the world. This is a very idealistic statement. I only wish it happens one day. It will not happen during my lifespan, I know. But the question is, over the period of time, when you just think after the independence, people actually in this country were having starvation deaths. We were not self-sufficient in producing pulses, rice, etc. And over the period of time, we have become surplus in production of food grains. Lot of improvements have taken place, we should not lose sight of. And Indian constitution always gives that thing that everybody is equal before law. But it will take time. It will not take in one day. You cannot just distribute and stop this particular thing. It is not possible legally. See, after the post-independence, if you take, Maharajas were also there. They were actually eating, the thing in golden spoons. Whereas a particular person did not have even enough food to eat and he will be dying on the road. That situation is gone now. Let us actually, you are a youngster, and let us see more equitable distribution will take place, more actually development takes place, the human development, the infrastructural development, people become happy, and then question is that if you take the constitution, we are not stymieing anybody to earn money. If he is an intelligent person, he makes money, it is his way. If a person who has not that much of intellect is not able to earn money, it's not. So we cannot say there is a difference on that. Am I clear?
Yeah, I think that is quite reassuring, the fact that we ought not to be so cynical about the system and that we do have hope. Thank you very much, sir, for assuring us with that kind of message. And I hope S.Venkatesh will continue to enthrall us with his writings. Kalkot is there for your reading. The next one is coming up soon. Agniban is a novel that will again take us into the the wild world of crime, and let's hope that it will open our eyes and convey to the world precisely the message that the two of us were conveying to the audience this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for this amazing and worthy session. I request Mr. Arvindan K.S. Mangalam, Senior Editor of DC Books, to hand over the token of gratitude of DC Kidakemudi Foundation. S.Venkatesh's book Kalkot is available at Counter 2 Signing Center near the stage Tulika with the signature of the author. എഴുത്തുകാരനായ എസ് വെങ്കടേഷിന്റെ പുസ്തകം എഴുത്തുകാരന്റെ ഒപ്പോടുകൂടി സ്വന്തമാക്കുന്നതിന് കൗണ്ടർ 2 തൂലിക വേദിക്ക് സമീപമുള്ള ഓഥർ സൈനിങ് ഏരിയയിലേക്ക് ചെല്ലേണ്ടതാണ്.
വളരെ പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട ഒരു വിഷയമാണ് നമ്മൾ ഇന്ന് ഇവിടെ ചർച്ച. ഇന്ന് പഠന വിഭാഗം സംഗീതം, ചിത്രകല, സിനിമ, നാടകം പഠനങ്ങൾ നടന്നുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്ന കാലമാണിത്. നമ്മൾ ആഖ്യാന സമ്പ്രദായങ്ങളെക്കുറിച്ചും അതിൻ്റെ പ്രത്യേകതകളെക്കുറിച്ചും അതിൻ്റെ മലയാളത്തിലെ നോവൽസ്